This video comprises of a mixture of clips and information which are both signed and spoken. The video runs for approximately 20 minutes. Deafax is the leading organisation specialising in visual and interactive, deaf-friendly training, resources and information. Our mission includes three key aspects: research, educate and inform. Founded in 1985 as a charitable company and not government funded, we rely on donations to fund our much needed work. We pioneer the very latest technology, innovations and advances, using technology as a tool to bridge the gap between deaf and hearing people and to break down barriers associated with isolation. There are two specific sections of the community that we work with: professionals and deaf people themselves. The term professionals encompasses employers, teachers, health specialists and organisations involved with technology, training, health or education. The work we do with young deaf people is primarily curriculum-based training designed to augment their learning. For deaf adults, we provide training to help teach essential life skills. Our training is both culturally and linguistically appropriate and not only suitable for deaf learners but also those who require a more highly visual means of learning. As a result of this training, we enable the people we support to gain understanding and insight, which in turn enables them to break down barriers and achieve more. To provide information on working with deaf people in the workplace and to offer best practice solutions to communicate effectively. This video guide has been created by gathering both deaf people's experiences and advice from professionals working in both deaf and hearing environments. For those watching this guide, we hope that stereotypical attitudes about deafness are challenged. We are seeking to encourage and promote a positive outlook on working with deaf people in a professional environment, as well as providing guidance on suitable provision to enable them to gain equal access to services and information. The Equality Act 2010 was brought in on the 1st of October 2010 and replaced the Disability Discrimination Act 1995, also known as the DDA. The legislation offers greater protection for disabled people and aims to prevent and protect them from disability discrimination, as well as providing legal rights in specific areas such as employment and access to services and facilities. In the workplace, all service providers, organisations and businesses are legally required to make provisions for deaf and hard of hearing people in order for them to gain equal access to services and information. The Equality Act 2010 covers a range of disabilities. Therefore, the employer is responsible for making the appropriate adjustments for the specific disability. For example, deaf people need pages and interpreters, and wheelchair users need ramps and wider door frames. There are approximately 9 million people in the UK who have some form of hearing loss. Hearing loss and deafness are related to the volume of sound that a person can perceive, and also to the pitch or frequency of sound. Losses range from mild to profound and can be conductive and/or sensorineural, to which 87% of all deafness results from, or a combination of both. On the 18th of March 2003, the government officially recognised British Sign Language, BSL, as a language in its own right. Approximately 60 to 70,000 people in the deaf community use BSL. The deaf community are empowered by the use of BSL, which has its own grammar and syntax and is different from English. It has a different word order to English and uses facial expressions, placement and body language. Another form of communication is Sign Supported English, SSE. This is a form of communication that uses the word order of English in sign language. Some people within the deaf community might rely on lip reading, and this is a method whereby the person watches the mouth of the other person speaking in order to understand the information being conveyed. The spectrum of hearing loss, from mild to profound, may use devices such as hearing aids, cochlear implants, and other listening aids in order for the person to be able to distinguish sounds. Deafness is not only reliant on a medical definition, but a social one. The medical definition of deafness is a hearing impairment in which an individual is unable to identify and process certain sounds. The individual level of hearing loss is shown in an audiogram. However, many of the deaf community classify themselves as a linguistic minority rather than having an impairment. As with any language, often comes the importance of culture. Culture will be recognised in terms of differences in characteristics, behaviours, beliefs and values. This leads on to the social model. The social model is how a deaf person defines their deafness. It's unique and individual to each person, depending on external factors such as their education, when they were diagnosed, social circles, and other cultural influences such as upbringing, language, and communication. Communication is a two-way process. It's extremely vital to be aware of how to tailor your methods of communication to ensure the deaf person is included. It is also important to bear in mind that each deaf person needs preferred communication methods, abilities, and way of working are different. They need to be treated and seen as individuals and not stereotyped. Deafness is seen as one of the most complex disabilities because it's not always noticeable and there are so many variables and different needs to cater for. However, there are plenty of advantages for recruiting a deaf person into the workplace. People are the key to helping an organisation grow and can be successful and valuable resources. Successful organisations rely on a diverse workforce. Deaf people have much to offer potential employers.
Hello, hi Graham, I'm the finance manager. Welcome to our organisation. So, Graham, thank you for coming. I'm the finance manager. What do you know?
Yeah.
So, hello Ovis. Welcome to Deafax. You're interested in the... Hello Ovis, hi, I'm the finance manager. Thanks for coming to see us today. Can we start by first of all telling me what you know about our...
How to adapt your surroundings and what to be aware of. Help to overcome the communications barrier by undertaking deaf awareness training and provide it for all employees. Be prepared to learn some sign language to support your colleague if this is their preferred method of communicating. Make physical adaptations to your working environment, for example, visual or vibrating alarms and alerters. Rearrange the office layout so the deaf person is able to see what's going on and access amplified phones, minicoms and other relevant equipment. Where necessary, provide a loop system and ensure clear signage. Ensure tailored communication support is offered to the deaf employee. Ensure that your policy includes procedures on how to combat discrimination. Being aware of cultural and communication differences and ensure that the deaf employee feels socially integrated. Be aware of terminology and jargon used within the workplace. Does it need to be changed or explained in a certain way to be accessible? Your organisation or business resources and materials should be accessible for the deaf person to use. For example, publicity and promotional videos should include subtitles and a BSL interpreting facility. Include visuals as much as possible and use real-life demonstration as well as written verbal explanations. Some deaf people, especially those who are born deaf, can find the acquisition of English difficult and naturally lean towards communicating visually. Use plain English in your documents, especially memos and instructions, to help ensure they are easy to read and understand. Reinforce information face-to-face or using the deaf employee's preferred communication method. Access to Work, ATW, is a government-funded scheme catering for disability and communication needs. You and/or the deaf person will need to apply for this. It takes about 6 weeks for it to be processed. An Access to Work assessor will visit the workplace and assess what the deaf person needs. Aspects of support covers equipment, communication professionals, training, office adaptations and travel. Contact your local Job Centre Plus for more information and an application form.
Good afternoon, this is the training department. How can I help you?
Hello, my name is Sally. I'm ringing about workshops.
Right, what sort of workshops are you looking for?
Something to do with relationship or sexual health.
Yes, we do deliver that. What area are you from?
I'm from a school in the south.
Right, there's just a slight delay when I'm using communication support. But could you give me your email address? Right, okay, I've got your email address. Thank you very much, and I will send the information as soon as possible. Thank you for your call.
Thank you, bye-bye. Yes, hello. I'm speaking through a female sign language interpreter. I need a quote for car insurance, please. It is always best to check with the deaf client what their preferred communication needs are. Once that information has been given, the correct communication support can then be provided. All will make sure the communication professionals are fully qualified. This will result in an accurate translation and effective interpreting. Check that the communication professional is registered with the NRCPD, the National Register of Communication Professionals for Deaf and Deafblind People, and has the appropriate identification. In order to search for all the communication professionals by name or location, visit www.nrcpd.org.uk. Any assignment that exceeds 2 hours, it is recommended that a second professional be booked as a co-worker. Prior to any assignment, preparation material must be sent in reasonable time to allow the communication professional to prepare, undertake additional research if necessary, and familiarise themselves with the content and terminology that might be used. It is recommended that communication professionals are booked a minimum of 2 weeks prior to an assignment. There is a possibility that one might be available at short notice, however it is advisable to book in advance as there is a high demand for the service. Be aware that communication professionals may seek occasional clarification throughout the assignment. This is to ensure that information has been relayed correctly and to ensure that all information is interpreted in the right context. It might be worth requesting a copy of the communication professional's terms and conditions prior to confirming the assignment.
I'm certainly not the least bit interested in attending. I think from a business perspective, it's a bit of a damp squib, quite honestly.
Oh, I completely disagree. I think it's an absolutely brilliant idea. I've got loads and loads of applications for tickets in, and I'm hoping to get at least some of them.
So what happens if you got all of them? Can you afford it?
That's the difficult thing. I mean, I just need to do a few calculations. Well, maybe. I think I might have to sell some on eBay, to be honest.
Okay, so we want to kick off this short meeting by just talking about the Paralympics. Are any of you planning to attend the Paralympics or watch the Paralympics on television?
Well, we're certainly keen to be involved in the event. We think it's a great opportunity for businesses locally to be seen to support the Paralympics and also to benefit from the people who are turning up.
Tips on successful communication. Speak clearly and be sure to face the deaf person. Avoid speaking unnaturally slowly or shouting. Try to maintain eye contact. Deaf people often have a very strong eye contact. Be aware of the lighting. Facing the light or window enables deaf people to see your face more clearly. It is perfectly acceptable to gently touch a deaf person on the shoulder or arm to get their attention. If you have not been understood the first time, try saying it again, perhaps in a different way. Rephrase your sentence or use alternative methods of communication. For example, try writing it down. Avoid eating or obscuring your mouth while someone is trying to lip read you. Give that person your full attention. Use gestures and facial expressions to help convey what you're trying to say. Be patient and don't give up.